Hello, and welcome to the online graduate practicum forum for spring 2015. My name is Rachel Arnold, and I will be your presenter today. I am a graduate student in the Masters of Science in Interdisciplinary Studies program in the Department of Occupational Workforce and Leadership Studies at Texas State University. The title of my professional practicum is Water Conservation and Stability. For the past 3 months, I have worked diligently on a professional practicum that has worked to address water conservation and stability in Central Texas, and particularly in Williamson County. As many of us know, Central Texas is facing a severe water crisis. There is a lot of discussion about what should be done to address this issue, so I thought it would be the perfect topic around which to base my professional practicum, since the purpose of my practicum is to achieve real-life skills to solve problems that result in outcomes that serve the public interest and increase government efficiency. In an effort to do this, I wanted to gain real-life skills which would help me plan, organize, and facilitate educational meetings for decision makers, understand and review legislation, network and make connections with decision makers, educate decision makers about water conservation in Region G, and evaluate critical commentaries from all of these meetings. I am fortunate to have conducted my practicum in Georgetown, Texas, under the supervision of Williamson County Commissioner Valerie Covey. I committed to this practicum because I believe the concern for future water stability is paramount to the way of life in Central Texas. I've discovered numerous things during my practicum, but in an effort to hit the high points, I have narrowed the discussion to these 3 topics you see here. The first practicum highlight that I would like to discuss is that groundwater conservation districts are not the only answer. Out of the 254 counties in Texas, there are currently 98 of them that have groundwater conservation districts. And while the name suggests that they are in the business of conserving groundwater, I have to argue that research shows they are merely created to set future desired conditions, which are what modeled available groundwater or MAG numbers are based off of. These numbers are important because they are used by groundwater conservation districts to base their decisions to permit wells and other water purveyors' use of groundwater. This seems like a good idea in regards to conservation, but the desired future conditions, and thus the MAG, are not based on the actual amount of groundwater that is available. Unfortunately, groundwater conservation districts do not appear to be scientifically concerned with conservation. This brings me to my second practicum highlight, and that is science-based conservation is key. During the course of my practicum, I discovered there is an enormous lack of science associated with water conservation. Currently, the state and water authorities only regulate surface water, which is the water that you will find in rivers, lakes, and reservoirs. It's a bit of a free-for-all in regards to groundwater, and as previously mentioned, the numbers tied to groundwater are set by the districts that have a vested interest in underreporting the amount of available groundwater. My site supervisor calls this the case of the haves versus the have-nots. Essentially, those with large aquifers and available groundwater can set their desired future conditions so high that it makes it impossible for anyone new to drill a well or pump water from the ground. This is a bad thing because it has the potential to keep people from using their property for its intended purpose. This brings me to my final highlight, which is the important Edwards Aquifer Authority versus Day case. After meeting with the chairman of the Texas Water Development Board, he instructed me to look at this Texas Supreme Court case. This case has to do with the Edwards Aquifer Authority limiting the amount of water a property owner could remove from under his property. The ruling on this case took more than a decade, but eventually Mr. Day won the rights to the resources below his land. This decision has the potential to derail and overturn any powers granted to groundwater conservation districts. Because if people can remove as much water as they want from under their property, there is no real purpose for the conservation districts. As a consumer of water in Texas, all residents should pay attention to this ruling. In the event that any of this information makes you want to seek out more information, here are some of the articles that I found helpful during my practicum. The first article is by J.R. Foster, and he evaluates the effectiveness of groundwater conservation districts in the state of Texas. His research suggests that conservation districts are beneficial. Reading that Foster's research found them beneficial made me look into the reasons why Williamson County has decided not to create a conservation district of its own. I found that Williamson County mostly gets its water from surface water sources, which means that a groundwater conservation district has the potential to put future property owners who need wells in a difficult position without exacting much change. Even though Foster's research shows that these districts can be beneficial, the fact that Williamson County does not have an abundance of wells accessing the Edwards Aquifer shows that a one-size-fits-all approach will not work in regards to water conservation. The second article by Ashley Newman explains the implications of the Edwards Aquifer Authority versus Day Supreme Court decision in her review titled Edwards Aquifer Authority versus Day and the Future Groundwater Regulation in Texas. Since 1904, the state of Texas has employed the right of capture to natural resources, which means that property owners own what is under their property. If property owners are restricted from accessing what they own, it is considered a take of their property. With the Day decision, it has been affirmed that property owners own the water under their land just like they own the oil and gas and should be compensated should their access be denied. This case was decided in 2012 and its consequences and implications are still being defined. I highly recommend searching this case online for more information. The final article by Wells, The Take Trifecta, Balancing the Challenges of Endangered Species, Private Property Interests, and the State Management Authority in Texas Water Planning, highlights what an incredible balancing act conservation really is. The state of Texas has numerous endangered and threatened species within its borders, and these are not subject to the take compensation like natural resources. In other words, property owners across the state and in Williamson County have many different aspects of conservation to consider. Again, the decision in the Day case has the potential to make it harder to take property owners' water rights, but there is no doubt that people who own property in the state have many different issues to consider when it comes to using their property. During the practicum, I was asked to reflect each week in an effort to identify the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats I experienced. It was not until the end of my practicum that I or my site supervisor was able to definitively identify my greatest strength, which is taking notes and understanding what information will be important in the future. Upon completion of my practicum, I have been able to provide significant amounts of information from past meetings that will help decision makers like Commissioner Covey have the information that they need for future decisions. Unlike my strength, my weakness made itself obvious early in the practicum. I do not have a large background in scientific reading, which made reading scientific research and findings hard. I tried to do this in the beginning, but it was hurting my experience because I was not getting anywhere with the information. To overcome this weakness, I had to recognize that I could not do everything. I had to ask the scientist to explain the information in a way I could understand and present to the site supervisor if she asked. I had to leave science to the real scientists. This brings me to the opportunity associated with the practicum. Over the past 10 weeks, I've made some incredible connections. I've met with Zach Kovar, a commissioner with TCEQ, Carlos Rubenstein, chairman of the Texas Water Development Board, members and leaders of the Brazos River Authority, and the Lone Star Water Regional Authority, and that's just to name a few. This brings me to the final reflection of the practicum, which is the main threat that I realized and experienced, which is being powerless. I realized this at the beginning of the practicum when I was trying to make a spreadsheet listing the members of each committee in the House and Senate that had any dealings with water. The Senate committees were posted quickly, but the House of Representatives did not assign and post their committees until the first week of February. This put a major hiccup in my timeline, but it also taught me to adapt quickly and move forward, which is an invaluable lesson to learn when working with government. As I approach the end of my graduate coursework, I am often asked what I'm going to do next, and to be honest, I'm not 100% sure. I love working for Williamson County, and I would love to stay with the county and just take on more responsibilities. Even though the practicum is over, Commissioner Covey has asked me to attend a large water meeting in Hays County where decision makers will meet to discuss a regional approach to water conservation and stability. I've also thought about a career as a lobbyist. I know that is a dirty word in politics, but lobbyists are the people who make laws happen. They usher bills through committee, get them on the floor, and navigate the labyrinth that is the Texas legislature. I think it would be amazing to find important and beneficial bills that I can help become law. Finally, I would love to be a county manager. I really enjoy the county level of government. The elected officials and staff have the ability to exact change county-wide, but remain close enough to their constituents to maintain a level of accessibility that is respectable. I appreciate the dedication of Commissioner Court members and everything they put into their role as leaders, and it would be amazing to assist and manage a county under their direction. On the page below, please indicate your anonymous preference for this practicum by clicking one of these two icons. Also, please post your comments or questions in the YouTube comment section below. I will respond to your inquiries posted between April 6th and 17th through this webpage. This concludes the presentation. Thank you for watching.